Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show here on STV2. The main talking points on tonight's programme. Hearts owner Anne Budge will stand by Kyle Lafferty after the striker admitted he has a gambling addiction. Celtic prepare for match day 2 in the Champions League against Anderlecht. Roy McGregor says he has no idea who will become the next manager of Ross County. Yeah, that's just a few of the talking points. Alan Ruff and myself, Peter Martin, will be discussing, and I'm delighted to say our boot-room guest is a former Dundee United, Hearts, Rangers. I think there's a few others in there, but Iain Ferguson is our special guest. Sometimes it's always dangerous, Ruff, if you start going through all the clubs that they've played for because we've only got an hour programme.
Yeah, he still wouldn't beat Chick Charnley, but no, not by a mile.
Chick still holding the record as our boot-room guest for 23 clubs. I'm not quite sure you're in that bracket yet, Iain, but there's lots to talk about. First, let's have a look at the back pages of the morning papers and the Daily Record. Don't make him angry. This is Gordon Strachan's reference to Pedro Caixinha, probably made Scott Brown angry and made him put in that 5-star performance against Rangers on Saturday. Rangers Aberdeen could face each other twice in 4 days now because of Rangers' semi-final of the League Cup tie against Motherwell. And there's fired and emotional Jim McIntyre facing up to the fact that he's no longer the Ross County manager. The Sun, again, reference to Scott Brown. And there's also Pedro Caixinha firing back at Chris Boyd, who was critical of the Rangers manager allowing Bruno Alves to go to Madrid on the weekend of the Old Firm game. And in the Daily Mail, again, Caixinha shouldn't have made Brown angry, says Gordon Strachan. And there's also on there County Chief Roy McGregor defending his decision to sack Jim McIntyre. So that's just a few of the headlines. The first one that caught my eye, Ruffy, is Kyle Lafferty. This seems to be a recurring theme. Maybe I think we're just scratching the surface of some players who have this problem. Full marks to Kyle Lafferty for having the guts to come out and say, look, I've got this addiction. Yeah,
I think we all identified it as an addiction that's only going to hurt you, obviously in the pocket. And if you're not careful, you don't speak to somebody about it, then you'll continue to lose all the money that you've earned throughout your career, because it's a very short career. And if you haven't saved up for the future and you're betting and losing it, then you're on a hide into nothing. But no, it's good that they're coming out. Maybe more people will come out. We spoke about it in the show on numerous occasions. There must be lots of footballers out there who have a gambling addiction. Yeah,
well, I think the most prominent one that we had on the programme was Kevin Twaddle talking about it. But just reading into Kyle Lafferty, Iain, he's mentioning the fact that sometimes he was treating £1,000 like a tenner when he was gambling. He has picked up a fine from the FA in England for bets that he placed, but sometimes, you know, even if you get a fine because you're addicted, you just keep on going.
Yeah, as Ruffy said, it's good that Kyle's come out and admitted he's got a problem. And going back to when we used to play, I mean, a lot of time in your hands, maybe too much time, and footballers turn to things like gambling. So if it is causing him a bit of trouble, then it's better to nip it in the bud now when he still has a part of his playing career left, that he could start treating his tenners like £1,000 instead of £1,000 like a tenner.
Yeah, well, absolutely, because that's a good point you make, because at the end of it, Ruffy, you start to say, well, first of all, as many do, including Iain, you have to look and say, well, what do I do after football? If he's not going to be a coach, he then has to think about other career, and if the money's dwindled away.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, you know, that's when it'll hit him, you know, when the money stops coming in and he stops getting the big signing on fees and he's running out of clubs to go to, you know, and at the end of the day, you look at the bank balance and then you start to panic. But it must be a horrible addiction. It must be, you know, that you need help. That's basically what it's all about. Anybody that I speak to, you know, I mean, I've never ever spoken to anybody that's winning at the bookies. Yeah. You know, I've never seen anybody boasting, oh, I've just won 100 grand or I'm up 100. It's always the deficit side of it, you know, and that's when it's a problem. And it's not only him he's affecting his family as well, you know, that you've got to think of that as well.
Yeah, full marks to the club for standing by him though at this point, and maybe trying to get him help over and above the help that he's already seeking.
No, I think it's fantastic. Hearts are a fantastic club, and obviously I'm quite sure they'll give him all the help and support he needs. And as I said, he's came out in the open and confessed he has this problem, so that's the best start he can have, and hopefully he'll get the help he needs.
Yep. Okay, from one disturbing story, we move on to a man who's got a bit of time on his hands now, and I'm talking, of course, about Jim McIntyre. I think when you're thinking about the actual sacking, he was shocked and disappointed. I think he was actually trying to state his case, Jim, to Roy McGregor. Ruffy saying, look, it's early days on this. I mean, I thought it was, gobsmacked that they sacked him.
Yeah, I think he would be gobsmacked as well when Roy chapped his door when they didn't expect him to come. You know, seemingly went round to his house and had a word with him about it, and I'm sure Jim would have been fighting his case, and all the stats that you've thrown up yesterday are there. You know, but it looks as if, in my opinion, it looks as if Roy has went with the opinion of the supporters and the community. You know, that seems to be a big thing for him. He said the head was down, the people he'd been talking to at the games couldn't see it improving, and he's made a judgment that he'll have to stand by. We obviously don't agree with it, you know, because obviously what they've done up there, and it's amazing, you know, how many times somebody gets sacked 4 or 5 games into a season and all of a sudden it turns around, and I think it would have turned around because he had a lot of fixtures coming up, the games they could have won.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of whether you know Jim McIntyre or not, you only have to look at the facts. I wonder, Ian, you know, what the ambition is then of a club when he's delivered the League Cup for them, took out some good scalps, finished 7th in the table, and, you know, they decide, I mean, Roy McGregor, in fact, let's have a listen to what Roy McGregor had to say. He said it was a call on, a judgment call on the poor home form.
Last season, for parts of it, was really disappointing, and particularly at home form. And this season, we felt we strengthened, on paper certainly, and we just haven't seemed to put it right, you know. And at home form hasn't been good, and you know that I think the success, particularly of community clubs, is down to how you perform at home, and we've been kind of disappointing.
I mean, that one leaves me even more gobsmacked, if only for the fact that they defeated Alloa at home. They started well. They defeated Hibs on penalties in the League Cup, Ruffy. They lost after extra time at home to Motherwell. And they lose to Aberdeen, lose to Rangers. They draw with Partick Thistle, who finished above them last season, and lose to Hibs at home. I mean, I wonder if there was any expectation from the Ross County fans that they should be taking the scalps of these teams.
I think Jim's obviously become a victim of his own success. I mean, he's a lovely fella. I did play with Jim at Airdrie and a brief spell with him. Great player, and him and Billy Dawes have done a fantastic job up there. And I think they have become a victim of their own success, and fans maybe their expectation levels go that wee bit higher when they've had a bit of success. But I mean, so close to the start of the season, that I think it's crazy not to have at least the full round of let them play every individual team and see how they go there. And the results that you've just said, I mean, a very thin line from drawing games and losing 1-0, and these kind of things come back. And it's a shame Jim's lost his job just now.
I thought Roy would have been stronger than that.
So did
I thought he's backed most of the managers that he's had by lots of players and lots of money. This would have been another ideal opportunity, not now, but obviously in January. But it seems to me as if, as he said, the community there, it looks as if there's outside influence, obviously biting his ear and, you know, getting him a bit of heart. I mean, we've saw it, it's okay, the manager's handling it, but when it gets directed to the boardroom and the owners and the fans are nipping their ear, sometimes they make decisions that are a bit hasty. Yeah,
okay. Who gets the job? There's a few runners and riders, some of them the usual suspects, but does the chairman have a clue?
No, I haven't anyone in mind at all. I haven't really thought about it till now. I've been at a board meeting today, so just got to get down to business, see what the requirements of Ross County at this point in time is, and try and make sure that the culture and values and desire of the new manager mirror what Ross County's about. It's the right man for the right job at that time, and I'm never one to prejudge that. A lot of my business is involved with recruitment, so you know, sometimes you'll get CVs in and you'll think they're right, but when you hear someone talk and give their views and give us where they're going, and also appreciate where the club is as a community club and its interaction with our community. These will be factors in how we make our decision.
Well, I must admit, if it's a judgment call, it's a hasty one in my mind, Ruffy. As far as Jim McIntyre's concerned, I think 20 years from now they'll be cheering him into a hall somewhere in Dingwall, thinking, what did we let go?
Yes, and I don't think Jim will have a problem getting another job. I think there will be a job come up. He's proved, as you said, at this level that he can take small clubs to cups and win them. And that's what he'll be judged in. So I don't have any fear for him not getting another club.
Okay, coming up after the break, we'll be looking at Celtic in Champions League action, match day 2 of the Champions League against Anderlecht. We'll also look at Falkirk. They're looking for a manager as well. We'll hear from Gordon Strachan on Scotland and the qualification hopes. And we're also going to be talking about Iain Ferguson's rich career full of cracking goals. That's all to come. And of course, we've always got a question. Yep, so close, but yet so far, Ruffy. We just haven't got off to a good start here, and not even with the help of a good man who can finish from anywhere in the box. But we're one down, Ruffy. But let's concentrate now on another club looking for a new manager. They've got an interim manager in place, and I'm talking, of course, about Falkirk. If I was gobsmacked at Jim McIntyre going, then Peter Houston equally so. And I can tell you, Ruffy, that Falkirk have released a statement. Chairman Margaret Lang just said it's an extremely disappointing start to the league campaign, but we've got the important task of recruiting the best possible management team. She's thanked Peter Houston and the rest of the team, James McDonagh and Alan Maybury. But the process is underway to get a new manager. We're fortunate to have Technical Director Alex Smith to be able to take charge of the squad in the short term. And basically the new Chief Executive, Craig Campbell, the board is determined to get the club back into the Premiership and stay there.
Yeah, again, it's similar to Ross County, you know, same sort of credentials, you know, chapping on the door, achieving things that they hadn't achieved before, cup finals, and then all of a sudden you don't get a good start to the season and the panic button is pressed. Yeah, everybody wants to be in a big league, but sometimes that doesn't happen for whatever reasons. But again, for me, Peter Houston would have changed that round. You know, if I was sitting on the board, I would have probably looked at the CV and everything that had happened over the last 2 or 3 years. Yeah, there's a disappointment that you're not up there in the top 4, but you've got to really look at the situation. And I keep hearing that all people are talking about is not only what's happening on the park at Falkirk, but what's off the park. The academy, the selling on players, the bringing money into the club, everything is it's a stable club financially. So I think he deserved the right to see if he could turn that round.
Yep, there may well be out of left field, maybe a bit of information that some of us are not privy to, which prompted the parting of the ways. But I still think, like you, he should have been given a bit of time. And again, sometimes, you know, when you punch above your weight, I mean, he came second to Hibs and Rangers, Ian. Even this time around, I don't think a new manager is going to actually be able to get them out of that league this season. I don't think Falkirk will get out of that league this season, even if they somehow manage to scrape into the playoffs.
No, I think you're right. I think the job that Peter's done there over the last couple of seasons has been probably punching above his weight. And as you say, somebody coming in now, it's a hell of a hard act to follow. So if they're going to do a better job, I'd be very surprised. But there are a few people out of work at this moment in time, and I've been looking at newspaper articles when you've got a few guys with experience. So sometimes they might think that someone could come in and do a better job, but I think the stability that Peter Houston had given Falkirk and where he'd gotten over the last couple of seasons, he fully deserved to have a lot more time, not a small period of time, but you'd have thought they'd have given him at least until after the new year and see if things progressed. And because he put the foundations of that team there together, and as we've said, off the park, the academy's coming on, they're selling players, and they're still managing to get up and play with the big fellas at the top of the First Division.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who lands the job. Short term, there's an old campaigner and a man with a lot of respect in the football world. Alex Smith is in charge, and he's happy to do so.
Excitement's all back again. The thrill of talking to the players in a way that you're in charge, and you kind of miss that when you're not doing it. And these kind of situations, the first meeting is always important, but it's because it's so obvious why we're there, it becomes a reasonable, easy one to do. People think it's difficult, but it's not, because you're only asking players to think over the period of time when things started to go wrong for us 7 or 8 weeks ago when we were playing so well, and it was just a question of players losing confidence.
So, players losing confidence, Ruffy, you can read into that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's got bags of experience, he will be able to chat to the players, but for me it's all about the players. It's all about the players, you know, getting together, you know, working as a team. Sometimes, you know, that having private meetings between yourselves can change it round, and I think that's what they have to do, because we all know they've got good players there, they've got quality players there. They just need to maybe just get a bit of confidence and turn it around.
Yep, okay, and we will keep our eye on the potential favourites to land that job as well. We'll no doubt be discussing it over the next few days and weeks. Now we switch our attention to match day 2 in the Champions League. It is, of course, Anderlecht against Celtic. Celtic now in Belgium ahead of that match, and they'll be training on Anderlecht's pitch and getting ready for this match. We all know that they had a training session this morning in Glasgow before flying out. This one, I think, is the biggest match of the season for them, Ruffy, no doubt.
Yeah, I think it is. I think everybody's geared talking towards this one. This is the one that they have to take something out. I think they would accept a draw to go back obviously later on in the campaign and have them at Parkhead, but they must take something out of this game. And you saw the confidence at the weekend, the way that they're playing. I'm not too sure that this Anderlecht team are as bad as everybody's making out. Any time I've saw them in the Champions League, they've looked pretty impressive at home. Okay, they're sitting middle of the table, but they've got quality players as well, and they see this game as the same as Celtic. They see this as their chance, you know, to win this one and carry on in the Europa Cup.
Well, René Weiler was sacked, and Nicolas Frutos is the caretaker manager there. They got a 2-1 win at the weekend, but they're still sitting 7th in the Belgian league, so the form isn't always there. I think you're the best placed person, obviously, to ask about, you know, great European nights. I mean, there's a way that Brendan Rodgers seems to get the team playing. They've just been, they've just topped the league for possession in domestic football across Europe, Celtic. They'll need to do that against Anderlecht. They'll need to keep possession well, and they'll need to pick their moments.
Absolutely, it's the European style of football. I mean, the one thing is being able to keep the ball. Celtic obviously have the quality throughout the team, and Brendan Rodgers has brought that different style of approach when they're playing away from home. And again, they've got plenty of firepower up front, so it's important when you're playing away from home not to lose. And I'm quite sure he'll set his stall out not to lose, but be able to hit on the break as well. So I'd be reasonably confident if I was Celtic that they have enough firepower up front and they're all on form that they can sneak an away goal. So if they manage to do that, I would be confident they would get a result. Yeah,
I mean, you watched the game on Saturday. You were there at Ibrox.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of your old clubs. Was there a sense of, I mean, just picking up on that point, Ian, was there a sense of, you know, maybe snatching something, or was there a sense that it was always going to be a tall order against Celtic for your old club, Rangers?
No, I think Rangers, there has been an improvement with Rangers. Maybe not as quickly as everybody would like, but again, it's given managers time, as we've seen today. Two fellas have lost their job already as early in the season, but I think the game on Saturday, certainly first half, looked like two boxers who didn't have a punch, and then obviously Celtic came out in the second half, a wee mistake by Rangers, and Celtic pounced on it, and you can't afford to give them any sort of leeway just now. So I would say the Rangers boys would have been proud of their first half performance, but they're just consolidating and didn't really look like scoring for me. So it is a wee improvement, but I think Celtic are still that bit in front of Rangers, and they've got a bit of catching up to do.
Yeah, and of course the big dilemma is, again, does he go with Dembele or will he opt for Griffiths? It'd be a hard man to drop Griffiths on the basis of his goal at the weekend again, Ruffy.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. We know that Dembele possibly holds the ball up a bit better in the European stage, but I mean, if I was Lee Griffiths, I'd be disappointed if I wasn't playing. I think Brendan Rodgers talked him up at the weekend, said he didn't have many chances, but his work rate was very, very good, and the team built round about that. But I mean, it's a good position to be in. You know that you have either one of the two of them sitting on the bench and coming on whenever you need them.
Yeah, it's always been a case of looking at this group, Ian, and thinking the games against Anderlecht will be the deciding factor. I just wonder if, you know, it'd be a huge step if they got all 3 points. It would be an unbelievable situation for them, because I think they've always had that goal of getting European football after Christmas in the Europa League.
I think that's it. The realistic outlook is what you have to have, and I think both Anderlecht and Celtic, when the draw was made, realistically they would anything if they as a bonus if the Europa League place is the one they're both fighting for. So the main games will be against each other, and anything they pick up on their travels with the other teams would probably be a bonus. But I would say this is it's not a must-win game for Celtic. If you were the opposite way about, you would probably think that Anderlecht is a must-win game for them before they come to Parkhead. So it'll be interesting to see how they approach it. As you say, that they've just lost their manager as well, and they're sitting mid-table, but getting a new manager in sometimes can give a team a boost and a lift as well. So I'm quite sure there'll be formidable opponents for Celtic, because there are no easy games in the Champions League. Yep,
OK, it'll be interesting stuff for them, and not good news for some of the Celtic fans who've been told by Belgian authorities, if you haven't got a ticket, you risk being arrested. It's a bit harsh, to be perfectly honest with you, Ruffy. If you haven't got a ticket, just go to the pub and enjoy Belgium as a country. Surely you should be a little bit friendlier than that. OK, coming up after the break, we are going to talk Scotland, not only the main national side, but we'll look at the under-21s, because Scott Gemmell has named his squad. Got to be honest with you, Ruffy, we're having a nightmare at this quiz at the moment, although the Blob should have got an Oscar. I mean, can't believe it missed out. OK, let's switch our attention from club football to international football. Of course, yesterday Gordon Strachan named his squad for the forthcoming matches against Slovakia and Slovenia. Are you confident, Ian, as a Scot, that we can win those two and maybe even a playoff?
I don't see why not. I think I've always been a Gordon Strachan fan. I think Gordon's real passion when he's managed Scotland, and I think it's nice to see the capabilities that we might win these games now. For a few years there, I was scared to watch the telly when they were on, but I think there's every chance that he could. He's got a group of players now who are playing more like a club team, and they all like getting together and they're all focused on what they need to do. So I think we've got enough quality to get the results we need. Yeah,
I liked his line this morning in the papers that, you know, Pedro Caixinha just got Scott Brown angry. It might be an idea to get Scott Brown angry ahead of the Slovakia game, Ruffy.
Yeah, maybe not too angry. I mean, I think he's got that angry look before the game, so I don't think if you see him in the tunnel, coming out, he's completely and utterly totally focused, and he's got that stare then. So no, I think we just keep him on the calm side and let him control the game the way he did on Saturday.
Yeah, were you one of those players that like to, you know, shake hands with some of your mates that you spotted on the opposition, or were you in the zone, Fergie?
I like to think I always played with a smile on my face. I enjoyed the bigger the occasion, the more I enjoyed it. Couldn't wait to get out, the bigger the crowd. So yeah, you would have a wind up with your friends if they were playing against you, but you would be focused. Obviously, everybody, we're always very focused. If it was a big game, a cup final, semi-final, yeah, you were focused. But I think that the lighter side of football is always there to be enjoyed, and I try to do that. So I wouldn't have too many run-ins with anybody. I do remember the Scottish Cup final with Motherwell and Dundee United, when myself and David Cooper were playing for Motherwell, and I'd obviously lost 2 cup finals with Dundee United. And I did stand in the tunnel and say, right, come on, this mob can't play at Hampden. To which half a dozen of them turned around and went, Bergie. I said, well, it's true. You know what I mean? So, thankfully, we beat them now.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Of course, Ruffy, you didn't really need to stay focused in the tunnel. All you were thinking of was how much are the England players on in comparison to yourself?
Yeah, particularly down at Wembley, you know, that was an occasion. But I think most of the games, when you get to that stage in the tunnel, you're focused on what's up the top and what's going to happen, and you hope everything's going to be all right at the end of the day. Yeah,
well, I think we're better placed. I don't know, I've got a good feeling. I hope I'm not jinxing Scotland against Slovakia and Slovenia. Certainly the manager is more confident, and he thinks the players are too.
If we didn't have that and belief in each other, then we wouldn't be at this stage where we could talk positively, understanding that our destiny is in our own hands. And as I said, if there was any people who didn't believe in what we're doing or didn't trust us, then we wouldn't be here. But we're here, and we're all relishing it. I spoke to 1 or 2 lads over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and really looking forward to this. They think this is huge, and they all want to be involved in it.
Yep, everybody champing at the bit. Let's hope we can kick it all off with 3 points against Slovakia, and then it's just a nail-biting time on the 8th on the Sunday in October, where we're hoping we can get a good away win as well. Destiny is in our own hands. Good start also for the Scotland under-21s with that confidence-boosting win over the Netherlands. I don't think too many people saw that one coming, Ruffy, but we've got 2 tough ones away to England and Latvia coming up. Here's a look at Scott Gemmell's squad for the under-21s.
Yeah, well, you look at the squad and you look at the ones that are playing first-team football. I think that's the most important thing. They'll be going to the games looking forward to it. You know, Stevie Mallon got a good move. The wee boy Morgan scoring goals with St Mirren. Scott Wright's doing particularly well with Aberdeen, and obviously you've got Oliver Burke there. But for me, I think I think it's just as important the under-21 starting to get into big tournaments for the progress of the national team. You know, you need to be going to tournaments like that and testing yourself against other countries at a higher level, and then you just get the benefit when you go back to your own club, and then if you're good enough you get promoted into the Scotland team, and I think that's what we should be geared towards.
Yeah, you made an interesting observation just before we come on air, Ian, about, you know, it's crucial that a lot of these guys are playing regular first team football.
I think it is. If you go back to when myself and Alan were playing under 18s, you were playing in the first team. Under 21s, it would be a given that you wouldn't get anywhere near it if you weren't. So it's maybe something tells you that a lot of clubs are scared to give these kids a chance at a certain age. There's maybe too much pressure. Again, you go back to the 2 guys losing their job today. Blooding young players. I mean, I made my debut for Dundee when I was 16, and it wasn't an unusual occurrence. Most of the boys that you played in with under 18s did the same sort of thing. Give the kids a chance, and if they're good enough, they're old enough. And the young boy came in for Rangers on Saturday, I thought handled himself very, very well, and he could be proud of his display. But again, 19, he is young, but he's as much of a man as he's going to be. So give them their head and give them experience of playing club football. And as Alan says, you go and pit your wits against the Netherlands or Italy or all these teams and come back a better player for it, because not a lot of the clubs are getting long European runs and European experience. So playing in the under-21s against these European players can only benefit the boys.
Yeah, I think we've got a good crop there. Let's keep our fingers crossed that Scott Gemmell can get some positive results from the next 2 games. We'll get a real gauge of how far they've come when they take on England. Let's switch again. A couple of managers have been talking today. One in particular, Martin Canning. It was just picking up on those young players. They do get a chance at Hamilton Accies. I noticed Greg Docherty in the under-21 squad there, and they've got a big game coming up on Friday against a Rangers side that'll be desperate to bounce back.
Yeah, they certainly will, you know, but we saw Hamilton, you know, coming against Aberdeen's Celtic as well. They've always given Celtic a hard game at home, particularly on the surface, and he'll believe he can go into that game and maybe get some kind of reaction for Rangers. Obviously, pressure will be on a wee bit to bounce back. You know, Rangers will go there as favourites and expect to win that game. So I think Hamilton will be thinking maybe they could catch Rangers on an off night. Yeah,
that's exactly what Martin Canning, the Hamilton boss, has been talking about.
Obviously, in terms of their personnel, they've got quality all over the park, so it's going to be a difficult game for us. I would expect for them as well, they'll be looking to go and put that right. They'll be hurting from having lost their Old Firm derby, and they'll want to put that right in the next game. We need to make sure that we more than match that and give ourselves the best chance of taking something from it. Any game we play, especially at home, we believe we can win the game, and it'll be the same on Friday night, and we know it's going to be difficult. That's not to say we turned up expecting to win the game or assuming we're going to win the game. We know we've got to put in a lot of work to win the game, but we know if we do that, we've got the quality in the team to cause Rangers problems. So for us, it's just about making sure, like I say, the concentration levels stay high, and that's the big thing when you play the top teams. If you switch off, they're capable of punishing you. So for us, if the concentration levels stay high and we work as hard as we have been, then we give ourselves the best chance of taking something from it.
Yeah, and there's a manager who was going through a shaky spell and his board stuck by him.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I mean, that is an example to a lot of boards throughout the leagues that sometimes if you really believe in the guy you've got in that position, then you stick by him and you give him a chance. Yeah, there's a time when you've got to say to yourself, right, it isn't working, but how many times has Martin Canning been on the end of that kind of discussion? But the board have held firm and believe in everything he's doing, again, not only on the park but off the park as well, because they've got a fantastic academy set up, so he's done particularly well. Yeah,
they're going to have to play the game without keeper Gary Woods. He's out with a lacerated kidney. Ruffy, you thought you were having it tough as a goalkeeper, but I don't know how he managed to get a lacerated kidney in the game at the weekend.
I've said to you numerous, that's always the case if you come for crosses, something like that's bound to happen. So let the centre halves get it.
What's the worst injury you've had?
I had chocolate ankles, that's about it. I mean, I used to go over my ankle regularly and flat feet, strapped up since I was 17, so yeah, you can tell the way I walk now.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Just a couple of things before we get into the break. Aberdeen, we had a chat with Stuart Mill. They told us about the Kingsford plans. They reckon they've got half of it in place at the moment. I think, they'll have, as he mentioned to us, Ruffy, a couple of weeks ago on this story, I think he's got other investors in place for phase 1, 2 and 3. Yeah,
I think they've got enough people up there believing in Aberdeen as a football club. It's the community team up there. You would like to think with the finance that's up there, there'll be people wanting to take a part of it. Obviously they get the sale of the ground, which will bring in a large chunk of the money, but it's good that they've got the initial stuff in place. I think they have to convince a few people obviously in the council up there that they have got the ability to raise it, but I think with Stuart Millen at the helm, I don't think they have any problem raising that kind of money.
Yep, one little sad note that caught my eye down south, Ruffy. Former Newcastle chairman Freddie Shepherd has died at the age of 76. He was in charge of Newcastle from 1997 for a decade onwards. Boy, he would have loved nothing better than for them to have won the title, but Fergie had the Indian sign over them at that time.
Yeah, he certainly did, and I mean, I never met the chap, but I do believe that he was the original initiative in finance for clubs. I think he had the Rangers pools, didn't he? He thought that up, and a lot of things behind the scenes. So he was an integral part of all the clubs that he's been with, bringing finance in.
Yep. Okay, coming up after the break, we're going to talk to our Bootroom guest specifically about his own career. If you are a Rangers player or a Rangers fan, if you have followed Hearts or Dundee United, then you'll be able to remember some very special nights, not only domestically but in European football as well. There's many a fan talks about this man's ability to shoot from distance with a ferocious shot on him. We'll get his memories coming up after this quick break. Had to get one right, Ruffy, didn't we? I mean, we were toiling there with the previous two, but Celtic against Juventus was a was a clincher on that one. I don't know if you noticed Davy Provan in the lineup there, and
Perrin.
Hey, yeah, the Perrin.
Yep.
And I think the Juventus player was Franco Causio. Do you remember him?
I know the name, but obviously I never met him, so no, not really, no.
Okay. Thanks for that, Ruffy.
That did, I think.
This is Peter and Ruffy's football show. Our boot room guest is Iain Ferguson, formerly of Dundee, Dundee United, Hearts, Rangers. There's a few other clubs thrown in there for good measure. But the reason why I mentioned them is quite simply, Iain, there were some fabulous nights, European nights, and some really good domestic games to remember at all those clubs, starting, of course, as a youngster at Dundee.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was lucky enough to go to Dundee at 16. I'd signed for them my 13th birthday for S-Form. Made my debut when I was 16. One of the first games, it wasn't my debut, everybody thinks it was. We beat Celtic 5-1. We got relegated that season, and Celtic lost the league by a point, if I think.
Was there a guy, Peter Mackey, playing in the team?
Peter came from Celtic, yeah. Peter was playing that day. As I said, it was one of my first games, and after 5 minutes, Big Roy Aitken, I'm sure, put Celtic 1 ahead, and I'm thinking, here we go again, we're going to get beat 5-0. We managed to equalise a long throw-in from Eric Shadler, who is no longer here, unfortunately. Yeah. I managed to score. Everybody was a bit shell-shocked at the time. 2 minutes before half-time, again, big Peter Miller, who played at Motherwell when I was at the boys' club, got a penalty. Now, I don't know why he was in the opposition's box in the first place, but Danny McGrain, I think, pulled him down for a penalty, and all the experienced players went, there you go, son, that's yours. So I took the penalty, and we were 2-1 up at half-time. Everybody was shocked, apart from the City didn't know any better. So I walked in and got my usual cup of tea and a half a pie. The nutritionist was off, so I'm sitting in the corner, and the manager at the time was Tommy Gemmell. So Tommy was fantastic. Willie Wallace was the coach, 2 Lisbon Lions, so great for a young kid like myself. And I'm sitting in the corner waiting for the words of wisdom from the manager, and he walks in with the blazer and the tie like Danny Kay, and you remember Danny Kay? And he says, right guys, he says, listen, I don't know what it is you're doing, but keep doing it the second half. He says, I'm away for a drink. And he went in and had a whiskey. So the rest of the players, we've annoyed them, so we need to take it nice and easy. Don't do anything because they'll come at us. So we went back out 3-1, 4-1, 5-1. So you can imagine the papers the next day, and everybody was wondering how that happened. I don't know if maybe somebody had a bet on it. But, at the end of the day, it was a fantastic way to start my career at Dundee, and a lot of people still remember that.
Yeah, there are so many good memories. I've picked out more than a few. Of course, good to start off at Dundee, but a lot of people will remember those great days as part of a really good Dundee United side. Scottish Cup was hard-take, but the European games were something else.
They were. I actually signed for Dundee United a wee bit too late to start in the European campaign. I knocked them back a couple of times, to be fair. My first game was against Barcelona, so you can imagine the hype surrounding that. And we were on a good run in the league, and we were in the quarter-finals against Barcelona. Terry Venables was the manager, Mark Hughes and Gary Lineker were playing up front. So I think it was the first time they sold a ticket for 25 quid, and it was a sellout within 10 minutes. So nobody probably gave us an earthly of beating Barcelona, but we went on to beat them, not just at home, but home and away. So it was great achievement for such a small club, and great to be part of such a good team.
Yeah, I mean, of course, and a rare header is a winning goal from you.
Well, I did actually score a few headers, but people seem to remember the ones I scored for 40 yards, which I'm fine with that. They get further and further out as the older you get, but I scored a header. I was told by Davy Bowman that if I hadn't scored, I was just about to get took off. So we just scored. John Clark had equalised, which gave us the away goal. So we were, in all intents and purposes, we were through already. But just the icing on the cake, wee Paul Sturrock. This day and age, he would have probably ran the ball to the corner, but he broke away in the left, and he kind of looked up, saw me at the back post, and all I had to do was put it in, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you swap shirts that night? Would Jim allow you?
No, we would have had to probably buy them if we had. You know what I mean? Those kind of things. Somebody probably swapped some sort of shirts, but I didn't swap mine. If anything, I would have probably liked to have kept the one I played in, but again, we didn't get that either.
Yeah, am I right in thinking you missed the first leg of the final and played in the second one against Gothenburg at Tannadice?
I did miss it. I mean, the semi-final again, we threw in the semi-final. I scored in that game. We drew the nothing each with Borussia Mönchengladbach at home. And then we went again and nobody gave us an earthly of beating Borussia over in their own patch. And I managed to score a goal then, but unfortunately I get booked as well for dissent, because that's how I only ever get booked for dissent. Which I didn't know at the time, but meant that I missed the first leg of the final. It was a two-legged affair at that time.
Yeah.
And I missed the first leg, which was in Gothenburg, which was very disappointing, because throughout that run, well, the games that I played in, I managed to get the goal. It was the fact that the guys were so well organised and we so well drilled by Jim McLean that we all knew that we would get at least one chance. And sometimes, thankfully, it arrived at my doorstep and I managed to do it. So I was a wee bit disappointed that I was suspended for the first leg, because I would have been confident at that time, given the opportunity, I might have sneaked a goal, which would have helped us in the big picture of things.
Yeah, is it painful looking back on that, or is it a sense of pride? You know, Gothenburg winning the cup's one thing, but it's a tremendous amount of affection for that group of players.
Yeah, I think it's great to look back on these things. I mean, I'm a winner. Most of the guys, you like to win things. It's okay getting through to finals and semi-finals, but I mean, I think if you think about the achievement of a Dundee United team put together for not a lot of money, a lot of homegrown players, they were all Scottish players, I'm sure, to get to the final of a European trophy and perform the way we did. I can't remember how many games we played that year, but it was quite a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we had a small squad of players, didn't have a rotation system, so the same crux of the team more or less played right throughout the league campaign, and we got the semi-final of the League Cup, final of the Scottish Cup. So we had a lot of football to play, and that happened to be the disappointing thing at the end. That was the last game of the season, was the FA Cup final, and we get beat.
Yeah, and of course the one thing that will appeal to Ruffy, great bonus system at that time at United, wasn't it?
Well, it was a much better bonus system than I had at Rangers, I know that. I mean, we were talking about it earlier, do you remember your bonus? And I remember leaving Rangers, I mean, we were all on the same money. We were all on 300 quid a week until Graham Souness came. I think Terry Butcher got $1,000 and we thought he'd won the lottery. And went to Dundee United. It was £100 a win at Rangers. My first game for United was against Hearts, and the game bypassed me really. Paul Hegarty scored the winner by 5 minutes to go, and we got 500 quid. And I had to, Iain Redford, again, was a good friend of mine. I said, what was the bonus today? He said, 5. I said, what, a fiver? He said, no, 500 quid. I went, seriously? And we played United on the Tuesday night in the League Cup. Won 4-0 and we got another 500 quid. So we get paid weekly then, so it was a good week.
Yeah.
But that continually went on. It was a very good club for that. And the basic wages weren't high. The incentive was you had to be in the team and you had to play to get your bonus.
See, if that was the case for you, Ruffy, you'd have played in 5 World Cups. I mean, that would have been incredible for you.
No, I mean, everybody used to hear the stories for Dundee United, you know, and you used to hear about, you know, maybe a Dundee United player getting a transfer somewhere and it was like escaping for wherever you were, you know,
there was an escape committee.
You cut the wire and you get away. I think it was Andy Gray had told me that. But, you know, but I mean, if you ever get a chance to look at a Dundee United team photograph and you look at the quality of players that were in that side, you know, you could see why they were getting to the finals and semi-finals of these cups.
Yeah, but it remiss of me not to mention the fact that you have a winner's medal from the Rangers 1984 League Cup as well, which had a good few players of quality in it as well. I mean, what are your memories of that team?
Yeah, I mean, it was a real privilege and a great honour to score the winning goal in a cup final. Every kid grows up playing across the road. We both played in Ute Hill. I mean, you think you're at Hampden, score the only goal in a cup final. I was lucky enough to go to Rangers and manage to do that. But again, we had some fantastic individual players, David Cooper, Coisty, big John McClellan too, who left. I think we played one more game and John left to go to Watford. And I think that really affected the structure of that team, because at the time John was not only a powerful player going forward, but he was very good defensively.
And I've got to ask you this, and it'd be remiss of me not to mention it before we finish this programme, for a local boy to play in a Motherwell Scottish Cup winning side. I mean, you guys will be forever remembered for that great game against Dundee United.
Well, we are. I mean, it's great. I mean, I'm going back to Motherwell on a regular basis now through the business I'm working. We sponsor Motherwell. So I was at the game on Sunday, and you always get a very warm reception. And until they win another cup, it's funny, they nearly did a few years back, and a few of the players who'd played in the original cup final team with me, I won't mention his name, but Colin O'Neill, says, do you want him to win? I says, aye. He says, I don't. He says, I want to get invited back in 30 years and 40 years. I said, well, fair play, wee man. We've got deep down, you would like the club to do well, and it's always good for players to experience something like that. I mean, we had an open-top bus through Motherwell in Wishaw, and my old school was down in Fordswood, and it's the first time I went down there on the bus, and the windows didn't get put in.
It's I could probably talk to you for ages on that, because I remember it, 1991 Scottish Cup final. Listen, an absolute joy talking to Iain Ferguson. I'm sure we'll have him back in again. Thanks to Iain from Ruffy and myself. Hope you enjoyed it. Good night.